So this week I've been doing what I think most fans of Warhammer and video games in general have been doing, and that is playing a little bit of Space Marine 2. I feel like we've all been waiting for this game to come out now for so long. I think it's been like 3 years or something since it was announced, and with Space Marine 1 being the absolute classic that it is and beloved by both Warhammer fans and people who just like big turbo religious looking Space Marine beefcake games alike, I feel like it's fair to say that the hype for this game's release has felt very real. So like many other excited people, I got right on it and I downloaded the pre-release Ultra Edition and I started playing it right away as soon as I physically could, and oh my god, I cannot wait to tell you guys about it because yeah, I think it's good. I think it's really good. And before we get started, I just want to say that this video is in no way like a super serious game and gameplay review of Space Marine 2. I don't consider myself to be like a serious gamer in any way. I really like video games and I've always played games since as far back as I can remember, but I consider myself to be quite a casual gamer. I do it as a little bit of a hobby when I have time to do it. And I don't claim to be any good at it either. Except Beat Saber. I'm very good at Beat Saber. For no reason. So I kind of just wanted to pop on camera and make a little like thoughts and first impressions video about Space Marine 2, both as a casual enjoyer of video games in general, but most importantly, a huge fan of Warhammer itself. We're gonna look at how it differs from the previous game, talk about where some of our favourite characters have been all this time, and go into depth into some of my absolute favourite features of the game, which you may not expect, which keep me wanting to come back and play it whenever I have the chance. And on top of that, we're going to talk about how I feel about the Warhammer IP potentially becoming more and more popular as this massive AAA game launches, and as other more incredibly mainstream forms of Warhammer media are also on the horizon too. So whether you're unsure if you want to buy the game yourself, or you just want to comfy down and watch some gameplay footage of me trying to somewhat efficiently kill hundreds of space bugs, then buckle up because we are about to drop into the most anticipated and maybe the coolest Warhammer release of the entire year. Whoosh. That way. Pew, 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 pew. Space Marine. Before we get started with all the good stuff, I just want to first say hello and welcome back to my channel. It's really nice to see everyone here. Quick life update, I've been moving flat and I've been extremely busy, so sorry if I've not been posting so much or keeping to my usual schedule. Everything's a little bit hectic right now, so I'm really glad that this game has come along, which means I can just spend a couple of hours here and there filming some awesome footage so I can make this video today. And if you are new here, then hello and welcome to my channel. We try to have fun here. It's nice to see you. Hi. But also, if you, like me, have just been playing this game whenever you can since it got released, then please let me know what your thoughts and opinions of it are in the comments section, because I've not been reading any reviews on it and I've not really watched anyone's videos about it, so I don't really know what the public opinion is of this game yet. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section, whether it's good or a little bit negative. I don't mind. But yeah, if you are new to this channel or to Warhammer, or if you've never played the first game before, then you may need a little introduction to what Space Marine is, so here it is as quickly as I can possibly manage. Enjoy. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, or I guess now Space Marine 1, is a hack-and-slash shooter game that was released back in 2011 for the Xbox, PC and PlayStation 3, which lovingly reflects the universe and characters of the tabletop war game Warhammer 40k, making the game very popular with the large and already existing Warhammer fanbase. You play as a genetically enhanced super soldier Space Marine named Captain Titan Titus, who, with his fellow Space Marines, and Leandros, is tasked with the felling of an Orc-Wa, which has recently taken over an Imperial planet and its weaponry. Things take a spooky turn when the forces of chaos from the interdimensional hellscape known as the Warp turn up, and Titus must chop, slash, and shoot his way through a variety of enemies in order to save the day, protect the Imperium of mankind, and hopefully please its crusty, dusty God Emperor. So Space Marine 2 actually takes place over 200 years after the events of Space Marine 1, and if you want a more detailed account of what's been going on with Captain Titus during that time, as well as how the game Bolt Thrower actually ties in with this entire canon, then there are a bunch of videos out there right now that have just been released which detail this entire timeline. So if you want a bit more detail about how this whole thing works, then please give those a watch, because I promise they're really good and really interesting too. But for now, all you need to know is that someone snitched on Titus for potentially being somewhat chaos obliged for literally no reason, and he was put into cryo-sleep stasis on a ship where soon after the ship's commander ironically turned to chaos. After a bit of time being a bit snoozy, the Death Watch found Titus's body on the ship, they reanimated him, scooped him up, and that's kind of where he's been for the last 100 years or so. He's been earning his honor back through anonymous service with the Death Watch Marines. And spoiler alert, there's gonna be a few spoilers, only light ones in this video, but here's the first one. This is where we find him at the very beginning of Space Marine 2 after you complete the tutorial level. And even though I was kinda clued up on the happenings between Space Marine 1 and Space Marine 2, the reveal still got me good. Like when he takes down his hood and takes off his helmet, I was like, oh, Captain Titus, you're back, I'm so happy. I just like to see his face, I don't know. Like I said, the original game, Space Marine 1, is a pretty basic hack and slash first person shooter, but I personally really loved the game. I thought it was great, I have really fond memories of playing it, and I think it's held up to the test of time pretty well, considering it was released over 10 years ago now. But having now spent some time playing the new game, I have to say that I think this may be one of, if not the best, Warhammer media thing that I have ever interacted with in my entire life. Let's find out why. First of all, to put it simply, the game is beautiful, and yes, that's a weird word to use to describe the grim dark horrors of the 41st millennium, but trust me, this game is just aesthetically and graphically so good, and I'll get round to just how good it looks in a little bit, because as a Warhammer fan, this game just gives you everything you could ever want. I'm playing my particular version on a pretty well upgraded PC with an Xbox controller, because that's just how I want to play my game, don't judge me. And so far it's been running surprisingly smoothly, considering that the amount of individual high quality animations it's having to render at any given time is, to say the least, astronomical. Compared to Space Marine 1 as well, Space Marine 2 just has so much more to unlock, interact with, and play content-wise. And I'm not gonna go through every single new feature here, like the perk trees, the new currencies, and every single weapon and loadout available, because I just honestly don't have the time, and I've been spending all my Space Marine bucks on customizations and not perks, so I can't be trusted either, so I'm sorry about that. But I do want to give you a brief summary of how the game actually plays, from its combat system and controls to its different game modes, and then we're gonna look at some of my absolute favorite features of the entire game, which is kind of outside of the gameplay itself, which are just so cool that I swear is gonna have everyone that plays it running to a Warhammer shop and buying some miniatures to become a lifelong fan, because it's just so good. The game itself has 3 different game modes, which you may recognize as being kinda similar to Space Marine 1's game modes, except obviously they're all better. Campaign mode is the classic game, where you play through the story of the now demoted Lieutenant Titus as he strives to prove his honor amongst his fellow Space Marines once more by hacking through the main enemy in this game, the terrifying, but also kinda cute sometimes, Tyranids. Operations mode, or the PvE, player versus event mode, is my personal favorite gameplay mode so far. You can create your own custom Space Marine character from a big selection of different classes, which we will talk about later in detail because, oh my goodness, there's so many boys to pick from. And you can team up in a squad of 3 friends or play solo with some bot buddies against a variety of enemies in 6 very different and well-made missions, which each take around 30 minutes to complete. Eternal War is a classic player versus player mode, where both Loyalist and Traitor Space Marine teams of 6 can duke it out together in 3 different game modes: Annihilation, Seize Ground, and Capture and Control. And I suck at it. I suck. I'm sorry. I've not been playing Call of Duty or Fortnite for the last 10 years. I've been doing other important things, and now I just get my ass kicked every time I play it, and it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. But that's fine, because it's still really cool. You get to be a traitor Space Marine and just run around, like, can't complain. Except I suck. Like I said before, I'm not a huge serious gamer, so I'm sure there's much more to be said about the game's controls and its combat system itself, but for me personally, I really like it. It's simple enough that you can pick your favorite melee and gun loadout and kind of be alright just smashing up the enemies by smacking the right buttons, and there's a really nice parry feature as well, which I love, and the parry and dodge warnings and windows are just enough so that it's a genuinely fun little gameplay addition, and it's not too hard to achieve. In fact, I'd say the parry is fairly forgiving, but if you miss it, you still end up kicking yourself a little bit, which is fun. Like I said before, there is a huge selection of weapons and loadouts to pick from the classic bolter and chainsaw to plasma pistols, and my personal favorite, the Pyre Blaster. In fact, let's just take a minute to enjoy the satisfying sound of 1,000 tiny little guys getting toasted by this bad boy. Wonderful. The perk tree will let you focus on how you want your characters in each of your classes to be built, like if you want to focus more into hitting harder or conserving precious health points. That is all an option, and you can really make your guys feel like your guys, which is important in Warhammer. I will always say this. Which brings me into the first of my favorite things about this game, which is the highly anticipated Space Marine customization mode. In Eternal War and Operations mode, you can completely customize your own Space Marine and Space Marine chapter, and trust me, I have been having the most fun doing this. First of all, there are 6 different classes of Space Marine to pick from, and you get your classic tactical and assault guys, but then you can also pick Vanguard, Heavy, Sniper, and Bulwark. And yes, so far the Bulwark class is my absolute favourite, and sure, the assault guy lets you jump around and do these 6 superhero aerial smashes into the enemy, which look really impressive, but my boy, he just refuses to die, and he's like a fridge full of bricks with a gun, and he just smacks people with his shield, and he's big, and I don't know, he's my big dumb Space Marine man, and I love him so much. He's my baby boy. Baby boy. To customize your Space Marine fully, you enter this pretty elaborate customization mode at this awesome terminal, and here's where you can start having some real fun. You can essentially do 2 different things here. You can either find your favorite guys in this actually surprisingly very large list of Loyalist Space Marine chapters. They have all the Loyalist classics like your Blood and Dark Angels, your Imperial Fists, and obviously your Ultramarines, but then they also have a bunch of lesser known chapters and successor chapters in there too, like the Space Sharks, or I guess the Carcadons, and the Hawk Lords, and even Minotaurs. But again, no Rainbow Warriors. Yet. Soon. Hopefully. I ended up going pretty ham in the first couple of hours of playing, and I just bought a bunch of colours which I personally liked. And the colours are all labelled as Games Workshop paint names too, which I thought was kind of cute. And then I ended up making my own kind of proxy Rainbow Warrior chapter for now, which have this cool yellow lightning bolt, and they're all turquoisey blue, like the same colour I use on my Rainbow Warriors, and they've got a 6 split colour pattern on their armour as well. And if you can think of a name for them, then please let me know in the comment section, because I don't know what I want to call them just yet. Oh yeah, and one of the really great things about the game is that there are no microtransactions involved, and all the currency you need to buy the various upgrades, like flashy armor loadouts, colors, and chapter symbols, can all be earned just by playing the game itself, which I think is pretty cool of the developers, and it means that little Timmy won't spoil the family holiday by finding his mother's credit card number and then making the world's ugliest space marine. I've seen loads of people doing some really awesome stuff with this custom character maker, and I'm so jealous, but I just need to play the game more to get all those cool perks, and that has me just so excited to actually play more of the game so I can unlock more of the colors and the patterns that I want. I'd really like to see in the future the devs adding some more classes and customization options to this part of the game as well, so we can all really go as crazy as we want to go on this feature. And speaking of creativity, I want to talk about what is probably my absolute favorite feature of this entire game, and that is photo mode. So the graphics in this game are like, good, right? But you're probably so busy blasting and slashing to maybe take the time to notice them, beyond having just a little moment in between battles to consider the Emperor of Mankind and what he's doing now. Well, photo mode truly lets you enjoy just how beautiful this game is. If you're playing the campaign on PC mode, I don't know if it's the same for Xbox and PlayStation, I assume so. Upon pausing the game, you can enter photo mode, which allows you to take scenic shots of your game as it is during your pause. And I don't know what kind of absolute magic they're putting into their scenic, character, combat, and weapon animations, but goddamn, I swear every single frame looks like official well-made Warhammer art. Like, it actually became a bit of a problem for me trying to progress with the story mode, because I ended up pausing the game every single time I did a particularly cool move just to take some pictures. And I absolutely loved it, and I spent literal hours just taking pictures and doing this. And if we're being honest, they didn't skimp out on the features for photo mode. It's pretty in-depth on purpose, with filters and frames and even different expression options for each of the main characters. And I'm very proud of my achievements here, so here's some of my favorite shots I got whilst playing the game the other day, because I may be terribad at PvP, but if I can become the best Space Marine 2 photographer in the world, then maybe that's something. Maybe. Don't judge me. But I think that the actual best thing about Space Marine 2, beyond just taking thirst trap pictures of the chaplain, is just how well it showcases the Warhammer universe, not only to seasoned fans of the games, but also people who perhaps don't know the setting as intimately. This game does not skimp on any of the details, and it feels like every single nook and cranny has been packed full of things which just scream 40k, especially in the more imperial areas like the industrial parts of the planets, the inside of manufactorums, and the ultramarine ship itself. There's hundreds of candles littered around everywhere. There's extremely freaky cherubs just floating around being their freaky little selves. The buildings and scenic shots look busy and gothic, and like they've been heavily built up over eons by a civilization who was thoroughly trapped in an archaic past. Even when you take some time to look into the distance, there's usually always something going on an incomprehensibly large scale, which for me is a key factor in the 40k setting. The attention to detail on the characters is outstanding, the voice acting and scripting is wonderful, and at times really funny too, especially the little interactions between the servitors and the Mechanicus NPCs on the ship. They're my favourite. And all of this fantastic, high budget and entertaining depiction of the 40k setting, which is the thing that a lot of us have spent years enjoying as like our weird niche little hobby has just been released to the wider public, and from what I can tell, everyone's just really loving it and having a great time exploring the 40k setting. And that's something I kind of want to touch on here, because I think some people are a little bit scared that their niche little hobby is becoming a bit too popular, and I think that's a really interesting take. So, okay, I get it. Maybe Warhammer 40k has always been your thing, and you've loved it for years and years, and when you were younger, perhaps you were made fun of because it wasn't cool back then, and that sucked, and you're still a little bit sad about that, and that's absolutely fair. But now I've got some good news for you. It's cool! Warhammer's cool! And what's better is that you can go out and publicly like Warhammer, and what's even better than that is that you know that you were right all along, and that's the best thing to do, is correct and right. I love being right. I've seen a lot of people online acting a little apprehensive and uncomfortable, to say the least, about things like Space Marine 2, the upcoming Amazon series, and even popular and famous celebrities, influencers, and content creator types outside of the usual nerdy spaces taking an interest in Warhammer, and especially Warhammer 40k. And I think that they're a little uncomfortable because they're worried that their thing won't be special anymore if everyone likes it. And that feeling is extremely common, right? That's why there's the whole "I liked this band" or "I liked whatever before it was cool" meme. People have had this feeling since probably the first man discovered fire and cooking meat, and then it took off and everyone started doing it. But I think that deep down the feeling that's actually going on there is something akin to pride. Let me explain. They're proud that they've discovered something as cool and unique as Warhammer, and we're all proud of the minis which we've painted and the amount of time we've spent investigating the lore and reading the books and playing games with our friends. And unfortunately, I think that for some people, this pride that they feel in discovering and participating in something as honestly rewarding as Warhammer is something that they feel like they need to gatekeep. Unfortunately. But that pride you have in yourself and that love you have for the setting shouldn't really go away just because 1,000 or even 1,000,000 people decide to join in with you and discover it for the first time. And I think if it does go away just because it's suddenly become popular, then maybe those people didn't love it as much as they think they did in the first place. I'm just saying. In my opinion, I think that Warhammer is going to be huge. Like, I just know it. And again, I may be jumping the gun a little bit here, and I might be a little bit biased because I love it so much. But I think that in the next 10 years or so, people will be into Warhammer in a big way, in a similar way to how people love the Marvel universe, even if they've never picked up a comic book in their entire lives. And I think that's fine, and there's still fans either way. And as a long-time Warhammer 40k fan myself, I am overjoyed to see things like Space Marine 2 coming out, which gives the Warhammer setting the love, attention, and budget that I think it deserves. And I'm also so happy to just be given the opportunity to finally share it with more people than ever before. But for now, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. As usual, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for being rogues. I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Bye-bye! Pew pew pew, bye!